Hi, who am I? I'm Stuart Halliday. I'm retired for 14 years. I live in Eugenia, Ontario, which is 450 meters above sea level. Figure that out. Well, I'm retired, so therefore I just muddle around doing things. I have a little store in Eugenia, across from Eugenia Falls. Keeps me busy in the summer, and then we have a little bit of a pickle business called the Pickle Guy Company Limited, and we make great pickles and sauces and things. And then to keep me even more in, because when you become a senior citizen, you got to have your brain working all the time. So I guess I'm now being a counselor in Grey Highlands for 7 years. And now I must admit, after 40 years in the apparel industry, there wasn't too much that that I didn't know about the apparel industry, but about local politics, I knew diddly squat. And so I worked for a company called Jones Apparel Group, which made ladies' clothing for under the labels Jones New York, Jones Sport, Lauren, Ralph Lauren, and a few other labels. They hired a new hotshot, and he was in president, and he thought that we needed one building, and he needed an office with a view, because over there on off of Keel Street there were not very good views. So anyhow, my last job was to negotiate and build a new distribution center for Jones, which is still running today at Langstaff. So I kind of worked myself out of a job because I had spent 2 years building this beautiful distribution center. I built a lovely office for myself. I was a vice president, chief operating officer, in charge of nothing after I built the business. I had put up 3 flagpoles outside my office there, and in the wind those flagpoles would go clang, clang. I couldn't stand it. Anyhow, my boss said to me, he said, "Now, if you ever think about retiring," he said, "we should talk about that." I got the message. I was only 60 at the time, so I said, Then unfortunately my wife took sick, all right, in September 1999. And when I called him up on that day, told him that my wife was in emergency, he said, "Don't worry, Stuart, everything's under control." I said, well, I knew that this was an opening for him and an opening for me, maybe. So he says, "Oh well, we'll work out a deal." And quite for Richard was so happy to get rid of me that we worked out a nice deal, and there was somebody waiting in the wings to take my nice office with those bloody banging flagpoles. So that's when we moved up to our house on Lake Eugenia. In my retirement thing, I was able to buy an old gas station in Eugenia. At the time, it was a reasonable price, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. While I was down in Guelph one day, I walked into a restaurant supply company called Stop Restaurant, and I saw this beautiful stainless steel counter, and it had a sink, and it had room for dishwasher, and it was only $1,200. And I said, wow, maybe I can do a wood shop and an ice cream shop and have a coffee shop, and I can do a lot of things in my retirement. And I opened up the store. I decided that still wasn't enough. So I went in a couple of council meetings and said, well, I think I could become a counselor. So a lady who used to come into my store was a counselor, and she said, oh, we need new blood on our council. She said, why don't you run? They really did need new blood. They were a lot older than I was. So anyhow, I decided that I would run for council, and it was a lot of fun, and so I was elected in 2006. I really enjoy it, actually, and if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have been a counselor a lot earlier in my life. And today I would have been the Prime Minister of Canada, but I didn't know that at the time.